in West Cornwall Township. We're going to start out, just want to do some introductory pieces. To my left, your right, Chairman, well, let's start off. I'm Dave Lloyd, Supervisor. To my left, the Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Russ Gibble, our Police Chief, Bruce Harris, our Solicitor, Tony Fitzgibbons. We also have our Roadmaster in the back, George Dundor, and our Secretary Treasurer, Deb Dahl, is also here. As you saw in our original press release as of 9/25, what we were looking, we got, there's a seat up here for you, Jeff. Also, our present with us is our Township Engineer, Jeff Stegner. We wanted to inform our constituents and surrounding municipalities what the township was incurring with some pipeline installation challenges, as we would say. With that, there was a lot of stories created and passed around the community that actually is the old whisper down the lane concept got embellished and created more concern than maybe needed to be. But as you can see by our press release, I mean, we've got four kind of issues that the township is running into. We have an ongoing migrating legacy issue from the former Quentin terminal facility, and that's at 370 Horseshoe Road, 322. We have one citizen with a contaminated well with benzene and MTBEs. We have an unresolved excavation blast site presently, and we have issues on the horizontal drilling, directional drilling on Snitz Creek. So I know we sent out the 9/25. We have an updated one to today, an updated press release for your edification. But I'd just like to kind of go through and give you the cliff notes of what we incurred as the township and as the supervisors. This all kind of capped off at 9 on September 11th. There was an excavation blasting done on the west side of Spangler Rd, and with that there were complications, and the blast site blew the blasting mats off, blew debris out across the street into a home. The home had a swimming pool into there. That's how the township got involved, because a citizen called the township. We were not informed about the blast at that particular time. So once we heard about that, we got involved immediately that day. Upon that, they did some excavation on that blasting site that particular day, and there was a sheen of some unknown product on surface water in this particular blast site, which was a low side of Spangler Road on the west side. DEP was immediately brought in, and DEP wanted to see a water test on the site and on Beck Creek. To our understanding, it was it was 2 days later, on the 13th, DEP required Sunoco to pump off into frac tanks 8,000 gallons of the fluid that was in this excavation blast site with it. And we went on to that on the 14th, and also, just to backtrack, on the 11th, there was water tests taken by a subcontractor of Sunoco, which is Aquaterra, that happened. The 14th, the township was notified by Sunoco that they believe some of this is a product of the ongoing legacy issue on the south side of 322. Now, the township was made aware of that back in 1999. That particular site was Atlantic Richfield, Arco, and then Sunoco. But it was a site that was in as a terminal from 1940 to 1993. It had 8 tanks. Originally the Mariner, as we know, Mariner 1, which at that particular time was running east to west, was delivering gasoline products, and the Quentin terminal was a gas, an area that gasoline was picked up off the pipeline, stored, and then given to delivery from that particular point in time. Sunoco discontinued that at the active terminals in 1993. They discontinued it. They took the storage tanks and the accompanying piping and all those things with it out in 93, 94. And at that time, working with DEP, they knew it was a remediation area, and Sunoco brought, at that time, was Ground Environmental Services, then turned over to what was called Evergreen / Aquaterra to manage. At its height, it had 46 test wells across the area, and the legacy area then included the Roy Weaver Farm, which is on the south side, but to the east side of where the transfer terminal was. With that, DEP wanted an active remediation plan. Aquaterra went into it immediately. They did groundwater and soil analytical data on West Spangler and the blast site, and on Beck Creek. The township received the test results on the 20th that were collected on the 11th on those particular areas. And there was 2 samples taken on Beck Creek, upstream, downstream from the blast excavation site, and there was 2 samples taken in the blast site themselves. And the Beck Creek turned up with no detected contaminants. One of the 2 sites that was in the blast / excavation area did have a benzene reading of 7 microliters. And at that particular time, some of the soil analytics were tested as clean. At the same time, the property owner across the street at 22 Spangler had his well tested, and his test results came back with contaminants with a benzene rating of 11 microliters. Aquaterra was, this was now all on the 20th, Aquaterra was on site that day providing bottled water. They installed a treatment system that consisted of 2 granular carbon filters that were plumbed into his system. Also plumbed in this particular gentleman that we think has about 150 head of cattle. Was plumbed into his barn. They replaced feeding and watering basins for his livestock. At that particular time, they informed us that they thought it would take 24 hours to have the filters be effective. Also that particular day, we got a summary from Maine Blasting and Drilling, which was a subcontractor for the blasting on these projects. They believed that there was it was actually wetland that they went into. They actually, just in a quick down and dirty format, that the holes collapsed. Their drilling holes to put their charges in actually collapsed, and when they set their sequence off, and they were using the same blasting sequence through all their blasting, there was some misfires, and actually it created more of a blast to the surface because the blasting holes collapsed. They assured us that they were, from any other point that they were going to go into that kind of wet soil, that they would use sacrificial plastic sleeves that would be in there to keep that. So they responded to us as to how the blast occurred. Also, as we move on September 22nd, the township did receive the well testings of 5 neighboring properties that was taken on the 21st. 22 Spangler was one of those properties. That was after the filtration system was on. And all of those areas tested without any analytical detection, within limits of safe drinkable water. And those areas were on Horseshoe and Spangler Road. And now just into last week, we had boring pits. There was boring pits on either side of Spangler Road. Boring pits are excavated pits that they bring the boring machines in to bore underneath Spangler Road. And both these boring pits started taking on groundwater. The lower one, there was actually a fissure opened up on the low side, probably no more than 3.5 feet under grade, and was pouring out water. The construction workers on site started to pump it off on Friday, and that was the lower west side one, actually adjacent uphill from the actual area. We went in and asked them to stop. We contacted Sunoco, and they did stop. And then they started again and they stopped. But as of Monday, they had a frac tank delivered, and they pumped off all that water into the frac tank from both of the borings, test boring pits. They were tested. We asked it to be tested. It was tested. There was no contaminants that were out of Keller on it, that it was safe, but it did have an MTBE reading of 0.5 microliters in 2 of the samples. So they actually took 3 samples, one on the east side boring pit, and then they took 2 on the lower side with that. Now just today we got a notification from Pennsylvania One Call that they being Sunoco, are going to excavate contaminated soil from that site, 10 feet deep, 15 feet wide, and 133 feet long. So they're going down, taking what they perceive as contaminated soil. The first we heard of it was this morning. We didn't hear that late yesterday afternoon. And it's a firm, Lewis Environmental Group, out of Royersford, Pennsylvania, that's going to do that. So we'll be on that yet today to see exactly where that goes, but in proximity to where we're looking at, I would guesstimate that is going on the west side of Spangler Road out through where the demolition part was. I would say almost probably to that creek itself with it. Now the other issue that we have with that is we've had 3 horizontal directional drilling spills on Snitz Creek between North Zinsmill Road and Quentin Road. The first one was September 1st. It was reported that 50 gallons of drilling fluid and bentonite clay entered the creek. It was reported to DEP, and DEP opened an investigation. September 18th, it was also reported. Now this was now reported. The first one wasn't reported to the township till after the DEP case was filed, and some of you are quite active in that. I mean, it takes 3 to 5 days. I think we picked it up somewhere around the 6th or 7th of September. But September 18th, there was another similar spill on site. We were notified that particular day on the 18th. DEP was notified and came in to do it, test it. They're kind of head scratching to us. There was a turnaround by September 21st. They were at it again on the HDD, and it was reported again to us at the township that there was a small reoccurrence of drilling water, 90% water, 10% bentonite clay that was released, and it was caught by sandbag containments, but the job was immediately shut down. So I mean, to just a quick summary, what we're looking at, the township understands the legacy issue. We're working with, under the impressions that what was told to us, that there will be new test wells drilled into the meta on the west side of Spangler for test wells. They also look to have some testing sites parallel with the Mariner 2 pipeline also through that area with it. The farmer, just an interesting fact, that the farmer, Roy Weaver, was aware of the legacy issues for a long time. Russ will kind of go into a little more of that, but he was aware of that. As many of you know, that farmer built a new chicken house project in that particular meadow, and that Aquaterra did. He was going to run off. Not to get too complicated, but when he had contaminated wells back in the late 90s, and Aquaterra dug 2 new wells for him, considerably deeper. And he has 2 rental properties across the street. Those of you who are local know the sandstone, kind of some beautiful sandstone homes on that north side of Horseshoe Pike. They're rentals, and those wells were contaminated back in the 90s, and the new wells is piped underneath 322 to that. He was going to go off that well for his chicken house. Aquaterra was concerned he might be drawing down too much in that, and they being Aquaterra, drilled him a new well down near the chicken houses, and at the same time installed filtration systems on that at their cost, their maintenance, and also their electric on it too. Snitz Creek, we're waiting to see what the geologists say. There's supposedly being a full report to be out on that before they proceed. I would just we've had developed a relationship with Sunoco Energy Transfer and a lot of their subcontractors. But to be honest with you, I mean, they've been responsive, but the responsive has been at our urging. We've had several meetings where we've come to some verbal agreement that they will keep us notified, and that may last maybe sometimes 24 hours, and then something else goes down, and we are aware of it, and we have to push to get responses. But I must say, we get responses from them to it. So we've developed that relationship, and the Board of Supervisors have and continue to monitor these issues to their fullest. I would say the township is doing everything that we believe in our capacity that we can do legally on this. We spent a lot of time on this project so far to monitor this. So I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Russ and let him give his points here.
After the first blast went wrong, I told Sunoco that I wanted to go out on any feature blastings that was done. They were blasting up by the golf course, and since they had the incidents where debris flew on property across the street, I didn't want anybody to get hurt or any property damage. So they did allow me to go on the 3 remaining blasts that they had. And there were no incidents. When we got down near 22 Spangler Road, the blaster did put a double blanket on there, and I was talking to the one glass inspector, and he told me that if he would have known that there was any kind of contamination on the west side of Spangler Road, he wouldn't wanted them to blast over there. So at that point, I started doing some research, and I contacted Lloyd Weaver. This actually has been going on since the 70s. Lloyd was telling me about the issue. Mace Kurtz had owned that farm before he did, and years ago when they had the metal water troughs in the barn for the cattle, they used to get petroleum up into the water troughs. And Roy told me about the issues he had with his well being contaminated in 90 and 92. And from 1992 to 2002, he was on bottled water, which township didn't know about. I've been here on the board for 37 years, and never realized that. And we got talking farther when he went to put the chicken houses in. The first well they dug, they only went down 30 feet and they hit product. And then they dug the 2 more wells, and my concern was I contacted ACWA Sheriff too, and these water treatment plant they're putting in over the chicken houses, I'm concerned how much they're going to be monitored, when they're going to be monitored, if we're going to get more aware what's going on there. And they told us, they were at a township meeting, and that Sunoco, I said, how long will it be? He said, well, however long. It's, I guess, according to him, forever. They are going to be maintaining the treatment for the chicken houses. But like Dave said, I really appreciate all that Dave did. Dave was on the phone a lot, and so was I. Some days me and him were talking maybe 10 plus times a day. And the thing that's had me a little bit upset, I worked with Sunoco, and I was up on Spangler Road, and they were running the water the first day I got there. They were running water out of the one hole down along Spangler Road into a makeshift containment area. They had socks up, but it was getting through the socks, and so I called Mr. Gordon, and I said to him that I was upset. A lady went by while I was there, and she said, well, where is that water going to go now? So I told him that I was not satisfied with that water running alongside of there, and he said they'd done some tests, and it was in the guidelines. And I said, well, would you want to drink that water, or want your children to drink that water? And the thing that sort of got me, we just had a meeting a couple of days before that, and he informed me and Dave that anytime they would do something, we would be informed. Well, that didn't happen. The only reason I caught it, I'm a contractor, self-employed, and I happened to be going by, and I stopped. So I had you guys up PD, you were up there, what, 3 times?
Right.
And I said, look, I said, Matt told me that this water was gonna be pumped out. And so right after the police got there, they gathered up their hoses and stuff. And then 2 days later, I went back up. They never called me, and water was running down the road, alongside the road again. So I called PD again, and I got on the phone with Mr. Gordon, let him know that I was upset. I said that you said you were gonna tank it out. So they gathered up their hoses again. And I went up the 3rd day, and that's when I think Brent and Peoples came up. And we have some pictures here, and they were pumping the water again, and I called Matt, and they do respond like Dave said, but we gotta push them a little bit. I said to Matt, I said, you promised me that that was gonna be tanked out. And what he did, they did have a tank up there that the subcontractors were supposed to be pumping in, but they said they didn't see it. So I said to Matt that I was very upset with that crew. This subcontracting crew, he said wasn't listening to him. So I told him I was very upset about that crew, if he could get another crew in. So he did respond. He got rid of that crew. He got another crew in, and they did pump it out. But I said to him, I went to see talk to some people, and there was a incident where mother had 3 small children, and she was very concerned about the water. And I said, no, you're just sitting in the office, but we're out here talking to the people. So I think we need to keep on top of this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. We'll open it up to any questions from the floor at this particular time. Any questions that we can answer? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Russ and you for all the work that you put into this, and working with Sunoco. I know that can't be easy. We've tried, and it doesn't work very well. So thank you for all of us for putting the time and your expertise into this. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I was wondering if the township is planning on doing independent oil and water sampling through an independent company.
We have on some sites, and they mirrored what was there.
Is that going to be ongoing?
We haven't really discussed that at this particular time when ongoing. I think we will once we see what is going to happen in the excavation site. I mean, hearing what we heard today, now we're kind of reassured. We were concerned about that filled soil on that particular stretch, and now it's going to be excavated and taken out as hazardous. So we're really on point to say that we want to see the test wells through that meta and along that particular pipe.
Is Aquaterra making their data available to the public?
It is through DEP with it. We do have the data with it. They're
Are you
sharing.
making it available to the public?
Not at this particular time, but I think we're talking with the legal counsel here to decide what we want to do with that.
So the benefit of having independent testing would be, could be made public
Yes,
without legal,
yes, yes.
okay. Can I have another
Sure.
question? I'm just wondering, 3 years ago, because your township obviously is best situated to know, its resources, its problem issues. Was there any contact at that point when permits were going through the DEP process, that the township alerted DEP, that got involved, that submitted comments? Any interaction between township and DEP during the process prior to now these incidents?
During the permitting process for Mariner 2, is that what you're referring
For
to?
the current, yes, for what's going on now?
Not to my knowledge that there was any comment given by our engineer. I would say, Jeff, I mean, I wasn't on the board, but I think it's what I don't think we entered into any real. No.
But the township was aware of the legacy issue.
The township was made aware in 1999 of the legacy issue and the plan to address it. The township was given, it was actually monthly reports, probably through 202, and then those monthly reports stopped. We did a file review at DEP on the case, and be quite honest with you, what Aquaterra was telling us was relatively true. I mean, the things dissipated, what do I say, things, benzene and MTBEs dissipated, and where they were testing every 2 weeks back in 2000, 2002 to monthly to quarterly, and they're on it quarterly now.
But, one thing with last time, 2002 was that time, I wish we would have got more reports that, maybe thinking of this might move, that we could have kept our residents, more testing could have been done, we could have on top of it,
Question about the property on 22 Spangler Road where there was the benzene testing. That was the one where they were given bottled water recently. Are they still being given bottled water and irrigation for it? Or is that?
That testing with the filtration system.
Okay, with the filtration system that tested normal, so they're not using it.
No, they're not using their own water. But they're still on bottled water.
They're still on bottled water.
Yeah, and you still have that carbon filter system put in,
Right.
Now they have, they don't have 150 cattle. They have horses, chicken, turkeys, all the other farm animals. But, no, their water still, to this day, is still being treated. And they're on bottled water.
Given the first geology we have over here and underground streams and stuff, is there any, was Sunoco going to do testing of everybody's home in the township? I mean, my areas, I'm down the hill from, you know the stuff that migrate from the ground, if they're going to be doing that testing of everybody's home in the township.
Phil, if you remember, I talked to you, we're not aware, I think I said at the meeting I'd like everybody who wanted to well tested. And when I talked to you, I talked to a local farmer that Momo used to own that farm up there. And before Momo owned the farm, Lloyd Early had it and his dad had it. And many years ago when they used to do the thrashing, there was a sinkhole by the milk house. And when they done the thrashing just ended up down near you. So Sunoco was right, it is a northeasterly flow. I think, maybe the people in your area, might want to, get your water tested,
And that's part of our summary too, is that some advocates here have published this number, but Sunoco had provided DEP with a 24-hour hotline, and that number is 855-430-4491. That's in your press release. And we're encouraging anybody in the vicinity of Snitz Creek. Now, we did have testing done in a fairly big circumference on Spangler Horseshoe. But we would encourage any resident to call that number and inquire on that. I mean, there's, the permitting requires, we were told 400 feet acknowledgement from Snitz Creek. And we did go door to door, and we did understand that people did get letters to have their wells tested after the September 1st incident, but the letters were kind of ambiguous, and I think it was hard for people to understand if it was actually, it didn't really say it was related to the pipeline, and in some cases people thought they were being solicited for it. So what we're doing is we've got that number out there, and we're encouraging individuals to call and get those wells tested.
And if I could add something to that, Dave, because I spoke to the gentleman after last week's township meeting, and he said he'd be back in touch with me in a week. That was last Monday. So I know now I've got to follow up, so anybody that does call, follow up, because they didn't follow up with me.
Well, we ran into that with some residents, and it goes back to what we said earlier. They respond, but you gotta get the shoehorn out and get it going a little bit with it on the issues with that. As we said before, at the 25th Board of Supervisors meeting, we had 3 individuals from Sunoco here. Some of you people were present at that meeting. And it was told to Russ and I, the underground aquifers are running in our area kind of northeast with it, which, it kind of explains how it's migrated to the Weaver Farm across the way. We've heard some wild stories of underground aquifers that people rode from Quentin to the riding club, and I mean, kind of tongue-in-cheek stuff. But then we've also heard of old-time farmers that have seen sinkholes in Quentin that emptied out down below Northson's Mill Road with things. So we do know that aquifers are moving that way. So says even the geologists from Aquaterra. So I mean, that's our concern, to warn citizens to use that. Well, it's a hotline, it's not an 800 number, but to reach out with it. Yes.
Are they allowed to work at any hour? Like last night, there was work going on that started up about 8 o'clock behind us and along.
Where are you at?
There's like a field behind us, and then so it would be along Fairview.
She's casting the call.
Yeah.
Okay.
On West Court. So, it kind of was starting up about 8 o'clock last night. And then many times, it seems it's been quiet during the week, and then at 7 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday mornings, the work starts. So I'm just wondering, especially at night, what's going on at night?
Well, from what I told, and I've been up quite a bit with the guys, trying to get different complaints resolved, and they said they have a certain amount of work that they have to get done in a day's time, and if they run into something, that's why sometimes they run over. That's what I was told.
It's interesting because it could be quiet most of the day, and then it starts up.
Yeah, I can't answer the hours. I know the permitting allows them to work 7 days a week. I'm not sure of that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mike Schroeder, South Danville Township. So just to kind of to get this straight, the West Cornwall Township has known since the early 90s, for about a quarter century, that this is a legacy issue, that there's benzene, other petroleum products that are migrating out from this area, Then a few years ago, you're notified that Sunoco wants to build a pipeline through here, wants to expand the Mariner East. You know where the route is, you can see that it's going through this legacy area with all these contaminants. And there was no communication between the township and DEP regarding this legacy issue, where you can see where the pipeline is going to be going through, that it's a contaminated area, but there was no notification, no communication with DEP regarding this legacy issue.
Well, DEP knows it's a legacy issue, all the reports go to DEP, so DEP was aware of the legacy there.
Was there any communication between the township and Sunoco and DEP regarding mitigating this and addressing it before construction actually began?
And the remediation plan is what it is, that we understand, and it's being monitored. That's our understanding.
Right, but the remediation plan is one that's ongoing, presumably.
Yes.
Although testing stopped in 2002, or at least the township
No,
stopped
it
receiving
we stopped
We stopped receiving.
reports in
Yeah.
2002, so it's been about 15 years since you've received any reports from Sunoco about this remediation process.
That's correct.
Did the township ask for them? Was there any inquiries?
Not to my knowledge.
Would you characterize that as negligence on the part of the township
Not
supervisor?
to my knowledge, no.
So are you saying that,
Excuse me, I'll take my engineer to answer.
I'd like to just correct one thing that Michael concluded. It was not known that this contamination was migrating. It was reported, and it was of general belief at the state and by the consultants, that it was contained to the south side of Route 322. The pipeline construction work was all on the north side of Route 322 until it gets to the contaminated site.
Well, it goes right through. Can we see the map? Maybe we can show this map and ask if there's anything about this map that is inaccurate or that you disagree with?
We're not going to judge that.
Well,
That's
you can see
not
it goes
the
right through.
township's map, Michael.
No,
We're here, we're calling this press conference to notify. We will answer your questions. We're not very.
But what the township engineer just said, that it only goes on the north side of 322, is simply not true. It goes right through, crosses Butler Road, south of 322, right next to Terra Hill, and right straight through the legacy area.
That's your map. We're not there.
That's Sunoco's map. This is Sunoco's map.
Okay. Yes, sir.
yeah, John Hurley with WHYY. So are you saying that you're not sure whether the pipeline construction is responsible in any way for the migration of the MTBE or any of the contaminants?
We're not sure of that at all. No.
Okay, so given that, so what are you doing to try to determine that?
We're working with Aquaterra and DEP to have those, have some of those answers made for us.
And is DEP sending inspectors out to
Yes.
try to answer that question?
Yes.
Okay. And the 8,000 gallon spill that you referred to in the statement, what material was that? What was it?
It was groundwater with wood product on it.
What kind of product?
We know it was tested with, it had 0.7 microliters of benzene in it. Yes, ma'am.
Ann Pinko from North London Township, and I just wanted to ask, tagging on to his question, in view of you knew of this contamination and everything, and you didn't communicate with DEP about it, but did you ever think to communicate with the property owners that were along this, that, hey, this is out there? Did the property owners even know that this legacy pollution was there? And was it ever communicated to them that they could get their water tested with this pipeline coming? Because that's a big issue with these pipelines, is to get baseline water tests and then see what happens afterwards. Did the township ever communicate that to
The
their
township
residents?
did not know that the township knew that it was on the south side of 322 Horseshoe Pike. It was when the blasting occurred, and it was when the township was aware that the migration apparently had moved north.
Okay. But did the other residents know about the legacy pollution there in general, that they might have had concerns about?
There was testing on wells that were on the Horseshoe Pike in the past, but not down Spangler Road.
In
Roy-
general, are you,
Roy Weaver, you know, well, he knew about the issue, but he never, the only way I found out that he was eating on bottled water and is when I contacted him. And I asked him, you know, I was curious why he never, you know, contacted the township, because at that point, I think the last reports we got, Jeff, that everything was being contained on site. It wasn't moving.
Do you know if he had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to get his water, bottled water?
He didn't tell me that, he just said that he provided him, well, that could be,
That's often how it
you know,
operates.
but he didn't mention that to me though, I don't know. But, he said he got bottled water from 92 to 2002, and we were never, well, Dave wasn't on yet, but we were never aware of that.
Russ, the issue that you were just talking about when you were up there about the water running down the creek, that was the most recent thing, like September 30th, when they were excavating and when they were dumping the...
No, that was as of, what date was putting them up there.
So that wasn't on the press release, that was something...
No, that was something new.
Yeah, that was,
Okay.
it was
Those-
September, it started
yeah.
September 30th, last
Yeah.
Friday, and went into Monday till we had.
Yeah, you were what, Friday, when? Friday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Yeah, the 29th.
what are the contaminants that are being removed in that soil that you said?
We don't know, we were just notified this morning that there was a PA1 call to do that excavation, so we need to find that out.
Is that work happening right now, or when is that?
It is scheduled from, the work is the lawful start dates are actually today through the 17th.
And that's being done by a Sunoco, by
That's doing a
Aquaterra,
subcontractor.
subcontractor for Aquaterra,
No, for
for
Sunoco.
Sunoco. And what's the reason for the blasting in the first place? Why do they need to blast?
I'm assuming they were running into some
Rock.
rock.
In order to create a trench for the pipeline?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, there's lots of limestone in the area.
The blast site itself, it was, I mean, the press release said that somebody hit the house, and so was there any property damage, was there anything from the blast?
There were some cracks in the foundation of 22 Spangler. Inspectors on the site claimed that it was not caused by the blast, but Sunoco is repairing it. Yes.
So, the sequence of events, the blast, they did this blast, it went haywire, there was a sheen detected on the water, and 8,000 gallons were removed and put in tank. What makes DEP or Sunoco or you confident that they retrieved all the contaminated water? That if it's sheening on the water, if it's groundwater, why wouldn't there be more?
Well, obviously, we weren't confident when the boring pits started filling up from the same area. We wanted to test it, and that's taken off.
That's why we kept on going up.
That's an ongoing issue to us. Yes.
Dave, do you think there's any issue with all the out-of-town contractors who don't know this area that have come in to work on some of these projects, and if there were local guys that were involved?
Well, that's not our judgment to judge the subcontractors. We were concerned, and as Russ told you, they changed out the crew on that Spangler Road job for us.
What was the property of the initial blast site? That wasn't 22 Spangler Road, right?
No, it's right across the street.
Right across the street.
Anything else? Okay, thank you folks for coming out, we appreciate it.
Sorry, I wanted to ask one more question. This goes to the Snitz Creek fill. Was that, the 50 gallons fill in particular, was that ever recovered, do you know? Or was that just lost? I mean, they usually try to recover the
I know they recovered the third one, and supposedly the second one was recovered. I cannot say what happened with the first.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
One last thing. This is not going to be, this is not unusual, I don't think, to this whole Sunoco project. They have historical contamination sites across the 300 miles. path that they've taken. Mechanicsburg, for one, I know, I worked on that one myself. But they're gonna have all these legacy sites, and I don't think the DEP has really addressed this problem before, like right now. And they're finding this to be now, I would say, fairly silent problem.
I will tell you one thing, and I find out, that when I texted with one guy from Sunoco, there are more of these around. And there was actually, I guess, a fund set up, because I was curious how they were gonna maintain this, you know, treatment plant up here. But I guess there's some of these dollars set up in this fund just to deal with areas that do have the legacy.
I don't think we're alone.
All right,
I'm sorry,
Ann.
one more thing. And again, I want to thank you so much for holding this conference. This was so helpful and so good, and what needs to be happening is that we get the facts and know what's going on. I'm just wondering, would the supervisors consider asking Sunoco and/or Aquaterra to host a town hall meeting for the residents to ask questions and get information? I think that would be a very useful thing, and I'd ask you to consider doing that.
We'll take that under advisement.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gang. If you're looking for any individual interviews with Russ, myself, or any of the people up here, please let us know.
Just no. I don't like it.